Everyone, so welcome back to the channel. Thank you all for being here. If you are new, as always, hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and please leave some comments down below.
What do you do as a platform artist?
What do I do as a platform artist? So it was a goal of mine from the very beginning, from when I seen Lee Stafford on Living TV, from when I seen him up on stage that night to give me my award. I was like, I want to be a platform artist. And I wanted, at that point, just like put everything into becoming a platform artist that people wanted to come and see. I wanted people to come and watch me do what I do, even though right back then I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I wasn't happy with it. Like, I was cutting hair, coloring hair, but it wasn't. This is the whole thing with social media at the minute, and I'm so lucky that I grew up very early on in my career, not having all of this distraction, where you can compare yourself to like the highest level of people when you're doing very early stage work.
Yeah.
But I was looking at this stage work thinking, oh my God, like, I'm never going to be able to do that, because that level of work is just unbelievable. But that's why my first core part of my business growth or my business plan was education for me and for my team. I wanted them to achieve their goals along the journey as well. So to become a platform artist, when I did my colour degree with L'Oreal Matrix, I did that. And I did it well, even though I'd only had 6 months qualifying experience or something like that. They said, would I like to come along for an audition to become an educator for Matrix?
Was that after the thing you talked about earlier?
Yeah, after the colour mastery program with Matrix, they approached me and they said, would you like to come and be an audition to become a educator? And I was like, yeah. Mate, I was just so naive to everything, but I was saying yes to everything. I was like, yeah, I went for my audition and completely choked. We had to talk. We had to do a presentation in front of everybody of something that we knew about. And at that age, and I'm talking again about maturity and understanding who you are and where you are in your life, I was just trying to be somebody else. I was trying to be Lee Stafford. I was trying to be these platform artists that were very out there. I wasn't. I was such a shy little kid that I was just sort of finding my way in an adult world. And I stood up in front of everybody and I was going to talk about my time as a footballer, because that's what I knew.
Yeah.
And I stood up there, choked, spoke about a bit of football, then spoke about something else, and then was like, cheers. Sat down. And I remember Nicola Jarvis, she was the one taking the auditions. She was like, don't worry, like, it's just nerves, you'll get over it and that. And I got it. I don't know how. I become an educator for Matrix. I went out and I was working with other artists and I was assisting them and everything, and then I left Matrix to then be to work with Redken Colour. The salon changed colour brands. I went and worked with Redken Colour. Didn't work with Redken at this time, but that's when the awards come up, and I entered the awards and won it. But that was that. And then in 2011, I then opened up my own salon, continued with Redken as a salon brand, but then shortly moved over to Joico, who I'm currently with now. But I was put on a Joico ambassador program to be an ambassador for the UK brand Joico, which was great. It wasn't an artist or anything like that. It was just to become an ambassador, which was cool. I got to do a sort of like a 5-week course, learn the ins and outs of it. And then that's when Lee Stafford emailed me, said, I want you to come and work with me. And then when I went down to Chelmsford, he says, what colour do you use, Paul? I said, he says, you're still using Redken, because he knew that I won that award. I said, no, I'm using Joico. And he's like, right. He's like, is it good? I said, yes, amazing. He was like, oh, nice. He goes, would you go back to Redken? And I was like, I don't know. Like, the colours are great, but there was just something that went on with the other salon that I left, why it sort of changed over.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lee emailed Redken education bosses, and then I got a phone call and was like, hi, Paul, it's Dan from from Redken. I was like, hello. I said, oh, yeah, we want to set up a bit of a meeting with you. Like, could you come down to London? And I was like, yeah, what for? He's like, well, we want to bring you back into the brand, but I know you're with Joico and everything, but could we just meet and have a bit of a chat? And I was like, yeah, no worries. Oh, like, mate, again, yes. I'm not going to say no to any opportunity. Yes, it's to everything. So me and my dad drove down to London one Monday morning. We got in there, had no idea what it was about. And we sat down, they welcomed us, and they took us up to the cafeteria, the canteen, which is unbelievable, in L'Oreal building. It's just crazy. There's thousands of people that are there, and the food, street food. Yeah, you have, yeah.
With this little, you get a little badge and the turnstile at the start. Yeah.
So yes, yeah,
nice.
Cool. And then we went and we had lunch, we were eating, and they were just trying to scope out as much of me as possible. And then we went down for our meeting. And I remember them just turned to me and they said, so I bet you're wondering why you're here. I said, yeah. I said, well, we got an email from Lee, and he said that we need to get you as part of the UK artistic team for Joico. And I was like, Lee who? And she like looked at me, this is Thea, looked at me and was like, Lee Stafford? I was like, what, Lee emailed you about me? And she said, yeah. Did you not know? I said, no. She was like, oh, right. She said that we need to get you as part of the artistic team. I was like, right. And they said, so we'd love you to come on board with Redken and audition to become an artist. So it wasn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? Lee emailed you to...
You're still on that bit.
Yeah. And she's like, yes. I'm like, wow. I was like, okay, let me think about it. And they said, yeah, no rush and everything. Anyway, I moved from Redken to Joico, back to Redken. And I had my audition, and it just so happened, which is probably the worst, but the best experience as well with Redken. First time in 10 years that all the American big bosses flew over for that week for the auditions. So it's like, right, so you're going to audition to the UK bosses, but also the big bosses from America are going to be there. Cool. So I had my stuff prepped, all ready to go, and we were in green rooms. So there was a few of us, and I'm good mates with them all still. James Atkinson being one of them. And we were in the green room, and I was just sitting there on this stool. I had my mannequin head. I was doing about a colour technique, an audition about a colour technique that I was coming up with, about this diamond that you could place within the hair to create different textures and dimension within the hair, sort of like contour colour. And that's what it evolved into. And I was sitting in the green room, and everyone else was drawing up all these whiteboards and everything, posters. And I'm like looking around and I remember one of the bosses coming in, I'd been sitting there for about 2 hours, and all the others were moving around and doing stuff. And she was like, are you okay? I said, yeah. I said, are you? And she was like, yeah, but you haven't moved. Like, where's your stuff? I was like, there. And she just looked down at the floor and was so underwhelmed at her face. I just looked at her and I was like, yep. Yeah. And she went out, and I just looked at everyone. I said, should I be doing post whiteboard stuff? And they were like, yeah. I had 20 minutes till my audition, and I jumped up on a whiteboard, said to people, can I borrow some pens? Drew it all up. And it was like everyone, and I was last. So I waited there all day. I had about 8 hours, and I chose the last 15 to 20 minutes to do all this.
Oh, that's annoying.
And I remember they got me from the green room to the waiting area before you went in, and you could hear them in the other room discussing. I was like, oh God, as if I wasn't like nervous enough. And then it all went quiet, and I was like, right, my time to shine, sort of thing. And one of them came in and was like, Paul, do you just want to come back into the green room? I'm like, what? And they said, it's Sherry Doss. It's her. She's one of the big bosses. It's her birthday. I was like, right. I said, well, we're having cake and some drinks. And I'm like, I've just psyched myself up for this audition to become a UK Redken artist, and I'm going to go and eat cake with them. And I weren't hungry because
You couldn't turn it down though, could you?
I had loads of butterflies. No, I couldn't turn it down. So I went in there and they were like, "Hey, Paul, are you all excited? Are you ready for it?" I'm like, "Yeah." No, there's a bit of cake. I'm like putting this cake in my mouth with all these butterflies in my stomach. And I was like, I'm going to go back into the waiting room. I went back into the waiting room and I was just like, right. And then they popped their head in like, right, we're going to be ready for you in a minute. I was like, okay. And then I remember Jimmy, who's now head of education for Redken, he came in and he was like, right, 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes. I walked in, had all my stuff ready, put everything up on the wall, and it all fell down. And I remember one of them was having to hold bits up and everything. I was like, this is a disaster. Anyway, they seemed to like me. And I got it. I got the gig as a UK Redken artist. And I did that for, I think, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3, something like that. And then I had a meeting with one of my friends, and she was talking about doing stuff for QVC. But she said, "Can we have a meeting about doing stuff for QVC?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's going to have a meeting just in Market Harbour near us." And she said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind. On the morning, my bosses are coming with me because we've got a meeting in the afternoon." And I was like, "Yeah, no worries." So I was sitting there waiting, and they all come in, and I was ready to talk about QVC. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I don't think that's my vibe. QVC.
When they rang you about this, I wasn't.
Yeah.
What was it about?
About just presenting on a show about some hair products.
I was in your car when they rang you.
Well, yeah.
Because I remember you got off the phone and you told me, and I was like, "Okay, is that like a normal?" He said, "I don't think no. Nobody's ever rang me about being on QVC before."
Yeah.
I can't remember where we were.
Nah, but yeah, like that's what it's been. It's snowballed one thing after another. So I went and met them for this meeting back QVC, and we didn't talk about QVC. The two bosses were talking about bringing me back to Joico. And I was like, well, to be honest, like my whole Redken thing had sort of, I don't know, the education had sort of things had changed logistically for Redken. Things were different, and I wasn't really happy. Managers had sort of moved on with relationships and that, and it was just like, okay, I'll hear you out. And basically, they said, just tell us, what do you want? And I'd never been in that position before to tell people what I wanted.
Yeah.
They come for me and they said, look, and I said, well, to be honest, I want education in my salon quarterly, if not monthly, if we can do that. And they were like, yeah. I said, I want some like Joico trolleys, some towels. I want support. I want a sales manager. And I want bowls. I want brushes. And they were looking at me like, is this guy all right? And they said, okay. And they said, but what do you want? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's what I want. And they said, yeah, but that's standard.
Yeah.
That comes with the brand. Like, what do you want? And I was a bit like, I don't know what you mean. Like, because I wasn't getting that from Red at the time. That's what I wanted from a new company to really. I wanted the company to support me and me to grow with, and the salons to grow with, and my team to grow with, because we weren't. We sort of like really stagnated at a point, and I said, well, one of the big things is I'm leaving as a UK artist. I really want to continue being an artist, and they were like, we can't guarantee that, because there's no space on the artistic team, and you have to audition. And they said, we can definitely send you over to Helmond in Holland to meet the team, but at becoming an artist, we can't guarantee it. Anyway, I was like, new challenge. I've worked with Joico. I was an ambassador at that point years ago. Let's just do it. Anyway, I joined, and then I had a phone call saying that someone had left the art team, and would I meet the boss in London one night? And I was working up until, I don't know, about 7 o'clock. And then I got the 7:30 train from Kettering to London, met her probably around about 8 o'clock at a hotel. We were talking, and we were talking for ages. and she was ordering food, and I was just nervous, being polite. She was like, "You're not eating?" I was like, No, I'm fine. Like, and she's like, "Okay," and we just carried on talking, and she went, "How are you getting? Where are you staying in London? I think was it?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm getting a train home." She's like, "When?" I was like, "Half an hour ago," or something like that. And she's like, Oh, right. So you need to go. I was like, "Well, the last train is midnight, so I can get that." She's like, No. Like, we'll be in touch and that sort of thing. And I think I got home about midnight anyway. And I got an email or something, or a phone call saying, would I go over to audition in Holland? So I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I'd already done a lot of auditions for art teams previous. And I sort of knew what to expect, what I had to present. And oh mate, this is me all over again. I've just realized this. So on the morning of the flight, I was sitting there. I had a presentation that I presented to Redken for a color contour course, which I developed all the way through being an artist with Redken. And I had the PowerPoint all ready, and it still said Redken on it, how Redken graphics. And that's what I was presenting in Holland. And I sat there. My flight was around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something, maybe 2, 3, something like that. And around about 9 a.m., I sat there going through it all, and I thought, this should really say Joico.
Yeah.
So again, last minute, I ripped off everything Redken, and I remember them sending me an email, and around the email had Joico and their sort of, it was like a PowerPoint-esque sort of bit, and I was like, right, screenshot that, take off all the text, and I'm going to import everything of my course onto this. And I remember doing that the morning of the flight, and I was, just like, I was buzzing, I was nervous, and when I did it, the presentation, I mean, the people that I work with now, oh my God, it's the best company I've ever worked for in my life.
Yeah.
They are unbelievable. And I'm talking about the canteen at L'Oreal, the food and the experience that we get. You'll see it on vlogs that I've done.
Yeah.
It's just unreal. But I did my presentation, and my PowerPoint, and after it all, I finished with any questions, and they just said, "Did you do that PowerPoint?" I said, yeah. And I think that was one of the aspects of me getting onto the team. I don't think it was down to maybe not my work as such, although I've grown into that massively. I think it was more my ability, from what I gathered from the feedback, was that I could edit a PowerPoint, create a PowerPoint. I could use it on stage. I could talk on stage. And the way that Lee Stafford taught me to just put yourself across. You are? Present. Yeah, he has taught me some incredible skills, like the questioning, where it's like, that's a great question. I always tell you, great question. Thank you for the questions. Everybody hear the question. And with Redken as well, hands up for asking questions. It's like, we always have to ask 2 questions. Lee always asks 3. It's like, hands up if you've been to one of my courses before, hands up if you haven't, hands up if you wish you hadn't, to engage the audience. And that was a very much a Redken thing. So I was doing my Redken presentation to the guys at Joico, and I was like, hands up if you've heard of contouring before, hands up if you haven't. And there was all these aspects to it where I think was completely different to what had been sort of presented before. And yeah, I got it. And I was just, again, mate, just like, what is happening to me?
Yeah.
I'm a lad who got into hairdressing because there was really nothing else to do, but thought I'd be good at it. And every single year I've opened a salon, become an artist, become an ambassador, educator. And I went from UK artist with Redken to European artist with Joico. And again, mate, it's just unbelievable. I just can't believe, like, again, just talking to you now, just thinking about all these things that happened, which is why I'm glad I didn't just do this on my own, because I wouldn't have somebody to bounce off about, God, this experience and that experience. But yeah, if you want to be an artist for a company, approach them, or just do a level of work that they they can't not notice you. And a quote that I really love is, what is it? It's like something like do so much work so you never have to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And then something like become so good your signature becomes your autograph. I'm not saying I'm there. I don't sign anything, but those quotes really play a big part in sort of like my mental attitude towards work. I want to walk into a room at some point in my career and people know you. I mean, it happened to me in January last year. I was again with Lee Stafford at an event, and Harriet Stokes, who worked at Not Another Salon with Sophia Hilton, and Sophia was there, and I even had to message Harriet after because I was like, sorry. She was just like, hey, Paul, how you doing? And I was like, hey, Harriet. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. You? And I felt like I seemed really off.
Yeah.
But I messaged her after it and I was like, I'm so sorry if I seemed a bit weird. I didn't actually know if you knew who I was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, with like Sophia Hilton, big hairdressers in the game, colorists. And she was like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hey. Sort of like what's wrong with him? Like,
Yeah.
Lee, what's wrong with your mate? That's what I sort of expected. But when they were like, oh, hey, Paul, how you doing? Like, oh, how's it going with Joyco? I'm like, good. How do you know? How do you know that? And it's, yeah, mate, I'm still, yeah. I think one of the biggest things is obviously to stay very grounded with everything and don't believe the hype around you as such as well. I think that's also a big thing. I still get really, yeah, when people sort of say, because like I don't, yeah.
It's baffled your own mind.
Yeah, I don't really put myself out there as much as I am right now. YouTube has changed everything. Instagram, I've really started to try and get to more of like a self-promoting level, but that's only down to Joyco, and they invested in Saga House, who's like a social media agency basically, and they took us through like an 8 or 12-week program of how to have an online presence, which has been incredible, which has made my Instagram and YouTube game completely different level.
Mondays, like before Christmas.
Yeah. That's why I couldn't play Warzone.
You still did.
Still did. But oh mate, yeah. But that's just.
So what, like, what have you got planned for the future then? If